Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is the Irish Abroad Show and it's myself, Paul Neal, and I'm joined by our man Adam Courtney. We're going to be here talking all things Irish football from the weekend and a little bit from during the week as well. Adam, how are you?
Not too bad, Paul. How's things with yourself?
All good. Good weekend for the Irish players. I'm sure we'll be getting into it now. It's nice to actually be coming into weekends where we can actually talk about Irish players doing stuff in the Premier League, and I suppose not to waste any time, and if anyone is joining us, let us know in the comments. I see there already there's a Borussia Dortmund fan saying he's better than Haaland, so that's a good start. But obviously Evan Ferguson, look, we know he scored the equaliser, fantastic header, world class header, and that's not without getting carried away like everyone likes to tell us that we're getting carried away when we try and celebrate an Irish player scoring a goal. A fantastic header. It came off the bench in the 66th minute as Brighton were losing 2-1, and he came and he was the hero, and he got Brighton the goal. What were your thoughts on the goal? Did you see the goal? And just your thoughts on Evan Ferguson in general. I know you spoke a little bit about him last week, but he's just impressing everyone every week.
Yeah, he's doing unbelievable. I did see a comment saying that Haaland is the Irish Ferguson, or the Norwegian Ferguson, sorry. So, not surprised with that. He's got 3 goals and 2 assists in 4 Premier League appearances in his last 4, and only 2 of those were starts, He's doing unbelievable. Like, if this was an English player, there'd be so much more hype around him. I think we're kind of afraid to almost put forward or kind of talk up our young Irish players, but you can't really fault Ferguson at the moment. He's doing unbelievable. Like, every game you think, he's kind of bound to have a blank this game, but he still just keeps going. For the header, it was a great header. Coming on is around the 65th minute, and he comes on 88th minute with his side trailing 2-1 away from home to Leicester. Really impressive header. Guided it across the box. Like, the way he kind of got up, he's so aggressive in the air, and like, he just wants the ball so badly when he's jumping up for that. Like, it's so impressive to see. I seen Ian Wright saying recently about the aggression in Ferguson's game, and I completely agree. I think that's something that really sets him apart from a lot of other forwards. That kind of like as a Chelsea fan, like, he reminds me a bit of like Diego Costa, not in terms of his kind of antics on the pitch, but the way he plays, the way he uses his body, the way he is in the air. He's so aggressive, he's so dominant, and to think that he's only 18 and he's doing this, it's unbelievable. We were saying there just before we come on, I think if things even go somewhat close to what he's been doing in his first few games, he has to be starting for Ireland 100% up front.
I've been saying for a while now, I think he needs to start anyway, because how many of our strikers are playing at Premier League level? I mean, our best striker, you would say on paper, is not even playing for his club at the moment, and we'll come to him later in Obafemi. But yeah, I mean, that goal by Ferguson, the way he took it, like, he had no real right to score from the angle that he was at. And obviously, what impressed me the most about Evan Ferguson was he wasn't just happy with scoring the goal like other players maybe his age were. He was like, no, let's get the ball, let's get back, let's try and win this game. And even their manager then on the sideline, Azaz, like, he was then willing them on to get the ball. But he didn't like look around and go, oh yeah, this is my moment. He's like, right, ball, let's get back to the halfway line, let's go again and try and get another goal. That was what impressed me the most, although the header was absolutely outstanding, and as you said already, it was a world class header.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. That's another thing, like, as you said, that kind of mentality to, not just be happy to think I've scored a last minute equaliser in the Premier League for my team. He's wanting another one. Like, he's got that kind of killer mentality. Is in the box. He's just devastating, really, and he's not just happy to be there. Like, he's not just happy to say, "Oh, I'm a Premier League player." I've done amazing. He's definitely not resting on his laurels. He's keeping coming again and again and again, and you can only see this kind of continuing with the way his trajectory is. It's really, really impressive what he's doing at 18. If he was 22 or 23, you'd be saying, he could have a really good career in the Premier League. But what he's doing at 18, it really is scary to think. And he's only recently 18 in October. I think he turned 18. He's averaging a goal contribution every 40 minutes at the moment. And I know obviously that's a kind of a small sample size, but still, the way he's going is so impressive. Like I said, I've kind of repeating what I said last week, but he is just a huge prospect and someone I'm really, really looking forward to kind of tracking over the next few months and seeing how he progresses for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I think that's everybody's just excited to see how he gets on and can he keep up the form from now till the end of the season. But I think a lot more people are hoping that he can just keep up the form coming into March, and then he's obviously going to be in the squad. He was in the last squad when he was barely playing for Brighton, so obviously the powers that be and the likes of Stephen Kenny and his coaching staff are made aware of him, maybe by players that played against him and stuff like that, the likes of Shane Duffy's and this and that. But look, we'd like him to continue his upward trajectory. I hope it's not a case of him peaking, which I don't think it is, where people have said that was the case with the likes of Troy Parrott and Aaron Connolly previously. I don't think that's the case with Ferguson. You could see that there's a real grounding in him, and the way he was brought up, he doesn't seem to let himself get too far ahead. A bit like the person I'm about to go on to next, Seamus Coleman, who started and played a 45 minutes for Everton against West Ham. He was subbed off at half time, and so was another player, I can't remember who at the don't really want to go into that game too much because it's another terrible loss for Everton, and relegation beckons for us at the moment, and it's not looking good. And that's not Seamus Coleman's fault. I think it's the board and the people around the club at the moment are just a cancer to the club, and Coleman's voiced his opinion on this stuff before, that the club is a mess and nobody has acted on it. So not surprised, but he seems to be a bit of a fall guy whenever things go wrong at the moment. But he started and came off at half time. Then Gavin Bazunu played 90 minutes as Villa beat Southampton 1-0. On SofaScore though, Bazunu got a 7.2 rating, and I did see a little bit on Match of the Day where he had a missed kick and they nearly scored, but he saved it in the end. He looks a slight bit nervous at the moment from what I saw of him. But Caoimhín Kelleher was on the bench for Liverpool in their 0-0 draw over with Chelsea. But he did play in 90 minutes against Wolves in the FA Cup during the week, and they won that game against Nathan Collins and Joe Hodge. Nathan Collins then obviously played today against City. Had a really good first half. People were raving about him on Twitter and stuff like that. So David Snape was really impressed with him. And then Haaland, being the robot he is, he came out in the second half and then just destroyed Wolves. And they ended up winning 3-0. Joe Hodge, I didn't see his name pop up there, but he did sign a new long-term deal with Wolves this week, which is great news. And speaking earlier with the Sunday Times, well, I'm sure it was earlier in the week, but he did basically announced his intention to play for Ireland, and he's no intention of playing for England. So out of all of that, Adam, that's the Premier League. And Matt Doherty was an unused sub for Spurs after losing 4-2 to Man City away from home. So is there anything there that you particularly want to speak about? I would probably, Joe Hodge is probably the talking point there.
Yeah. The Wolves, two lads at Wolves, they're two big players for us looking into the future. Regarding Nathan Collins, I know it's, it might look silly to criticise him when a striker scored a hat-trick, but, Haaland could do that to anyone. Haaland could do that to Real Madrid, Nathan Collins was really, really impressive in the first half. He stopped 2 goals basically by himself, cleared two goals off the line. And I thought the most impressive part wasn't even just the goal line clearances. It was actually the way he was on the ball. Like I said this before, but he is genuinely a player I could see playing at a top 4 club in the next 2 to 3 years, if he keeps going the way he is, because he's just so comfortable on the ball. I'm fairly sure at underage level he used to play in midfield, and you can clearly see that he's just so comfortable. Like he does remind me of like a top centre half. Like if you look at someone like Thiago Silva in terms of the way he is on the ball, like centre midfielder, like he gets it under pressure with 1 or 2 strikers pressing him, and he just doesn't feel the pressure. Always picks out the right pass. It's just so confident on the ball, and that's something that's really, really impressive, especially for Ireland. A lot of the time, historically Irish players have been accused of like just playing long balls or hoofing it or whatever. But he looks like a player who can really help us pass out of the back, and I think he's a massive player for Stephen Kenny in terms of that style. Because Stephen Kenny is, you know, a manager who likes to keep the ball. He's not just wanting to put them under pressure, you know. So no, I do think that's really impressive. But yeah, Joe Hodge also. It's really impressive to see he signed a 4.5 year deal there recently.
During the
You know,
week,
at 20 years old, just joined from Man City. Yeah, in 2021, he just joined there from Man City. So he was at Man City for years, but to have him kind of come out and so clearly commit his future to Ireland, that's really, really exciting times for us, because he's a player who's clearly able to cut it in the Premier League. I remember he made his senior debut for Wolves in the Premier League against Chelsea, so I was watching that game. They did lose 3-0, but I did remember him coming on and looking really impressive, looking like he could cut it at that level. He didn't look out of place or out of his depth. You know, I think we've all got that worry of a player, you know, he could go and play for England or whatever, but I think what he said, you have to believe what he says. You know, he's clearly stated that his loyalties lie with Ireland. He hasn't accepted an English call-up since he was under 16 level, I think. So, you know, it's really exciting for us, and I'm looking forward to what he can do for Ireland, and hopefully he gets capped soon, because he's playing consistently in the Premier League, which is something you can't say about a lot of players.
yeah, I think with Hodges, the fact that he's actually came out and he said, I basically, England don't come into the question. It's Ireland for me. That's what Irish fans want to hear. You know, whether it's, you know, Rice or whatever. I think with Joe Hodge, there's a genuine, actual affinity that he wants to be a man that represents for his family and for himself. So I think he sees it as a really good opportunity for him to excel. He doesn't seem to be one of these players who chases like the limelight or chases all these mad deals like probably Rice did. But he's a player who looks like he's going to be a solid, steady midfielder in the Premier League, and we don't have too many of them. So I think to get someone like him in, and someone who's willing to basically commit himself, is fantastic. I'm just going to pull up his quotes from the Sunday Times today, just of what he said, in case any fans that are on this may have missed it. So he said, "Hand on my heart, I don't have hand on my heart, I don't have a problem saying that I want to play for Ireland. I'm clear on it. I don't have a problem. Don't have a problem coming to do an interview like this, because I'm not fazed by that question. Up until I was 16, I played for both and never turned down a call up. But when I had the choice, I picked Ireland, and I wouldn't turn back on that. I'm committed to Ireland, but it does get annoying because I never given any suggestion that I would play for England. I have never turned down a call up for Ireland." So that's just kind of the little take out of the interview. If you'd have to go to the Sunday Times to read the whole thing. I didn't. It's behind a paywall. But anyway, that's what you want to hear from a player who is an exciting prospect, and someone like who we're going to be touching on shortly, Will Smallbone. You know, I know he got called up, but he needs to play in a competitive game now, and then we can get maybe Hodge and Smallbone, get them capped in March, and then we have exciting midfielders to add to what we already have with Josh Cullen, Jason Malumbi, and so on. So yeah, it's been a while since I've been this optimistic about our team going forward, and the fact that these lads are playing Premier League. Nathan Collins, look, I've spoken about him previously. I think he's going to be a world class centre back, and just a really good player and a future Ireland captain, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I could see that happening, as you said. Just to touch on it again, with, you know, kind of finally feeling that buzz and that optimism about Ireland and around Irish football, both men's and women's. You know, I think obviously the Women's World Cup has been a massive factor in, you know, the qualifying for that. That's something that's never happened before, so that's massive. But also the kind of success of the Ireland underage teams, like you've seen the under 21s there, just literally miss out on a penalty shootout to get into the Euros, and then the 15s, 17s, 19s, they have great players coming through. They're beating big nations in different games, and I've seen the rankings come out during the week. And we've got a good few of our underage teams in, you know, the top 10, top 15 in the world. So, you know, it's really impressive. It's something that we've been saying for a while. We're crying out for, players coming through at a really high level, and now we're getting it. Like the likes of Ferguson coming through, Joe Hodge as well. Like these players getting opportunities in the Premier League, which is something that it was a bit bleak maybe 3-4 years ago, where you think, where's the next kind of 20-year-old Irish player coming into the Premier League? But now we're getting a few of them. You've got Bazunu and Collins, kind of already established players for solid Premier League sides. So I could definitely see Joe Hodge becoming that for Wolves. Lopetegui, since he's come in, has given him big chances. So you have to be optimistic. It's probably the first time I've felt optimistic in a few years now with Ireland, and I feel like the team's only going upwards.
No, I would agree, and it's been a long time coming, especially doing this channel when you're trying to pluck little small golden nuggets of positive stories. But now players are actually starting to kind of get their chance, and they're taking their chances, which is more important. So yeah, look, we'll move on to the championship there. Will Smallbone scored in a 4-0 win over Reading with Jeff Hendrick and Shane Long both playing for Reading in that game. Callum Robinson played 90 minutes this week for Cardiff after scoring 2 goals versus Leeds. Mark McGuinness also started for Cardiff, having returned from Sheffield Wednesday. They both played against Millwall, against Danny McNamara, in which Millwall won. So Wigan lost to Luton, so they're rock bottom of the championship at the moment, which wasn't good for them, unfortunately. James McLean and Will Keane did start for Wigan, and Louis Watson played for Luton. Just on that, like with Wigan being down at the bottom of the championship, what are your thoughts on them and McLean? Because obviously he's playing at the bottom end of the championship, doesn't really bode well for his international chances, although he hasn't been playing that badly. If you're looking at stats, statistical ratings, he's been quite good.
Yeah, no, when you look at James, he's one of our most experienced senior pros at this stage. He's been an unbelievable servant for his country for, must be like 11, 12 years at this stage. He's just under 100 caps. He's been a great servant, but as you said there, doesn't really bode well playing at that kind of lower championship level, especially when you've got someone like Ryan Manning who's doing unbelievable for Swansea at the moment. McLean he's definitely going to be part of the squads, but yeah, when you look at Wigan overall, it's been a strange kind of few years. When you think of like they were such solid kind of Premier League staple side, but now they've kind of fallen off a lot. That's happened to a lot of clubs, but yeah, in terms of James McLean and Will Keane, doesn't bode well for them. McLean though, I do think that he has to keep his place in the squad. Obviously with Manning, it's tough to say whether he should start or not, because when someone like Manning's doing so well and his creativity from the back as well, like it's a tough one for McLean. But I do feel for him because he's in a tough situation down there. But I'd still keep him as part of the squad anyway. Starting is a tough one, but yeah, he has been an unbelievable pro, and I'd say he's massive in the dressing room as well. Same as kind of Seamus Coleman earlier. Like a lot of those kind of players, the senior big name players, they're the ones who get the flack when things are going badly. But at the same time, it's not only their fault. He has been playing well for Wigan this season, so I wouldn't be too harsh on him at the moment.
Yeah, the only thing is that Robbie Brady's come back from injuries as well. He looks to be back playing. He started for Preston, and we'll come to him shortly. But just with McLean, I think there's a high emphasis to try and get him to that 100 caps, because he's so close to it now. But I just think you need to start playing. Like, sentiment has to go out the window sometimes, and you have to be playing your best players. And if I'm not saying he's not performing, but if his club is performing at that level, could even McLean get a move away from Wigan and do better for the sake of his international career is more what I mean, because Swansea are doing well. But anyway, I digress. Bristol City drew 1-1 with Blackburn Rovers. Max O'Leary played the full 90, and Mark Sykes had probably his poorest game in a while. He was going through a bit of a nice goal scoring patch there, but he only played 66 minutes. Jimmy Dunn played as QPR, drew 1-1 with Swansea. I think Ryan Manning had set up. He created 6 chances in that game. There's no real. That's not really that good if no one's putting those chances away, but good from him to be the man doing that. He got an 8.2 rating on SofaScore, and no Michael Obafemi, as it looks as though he's out the door with Burnley, but still no progress on that so far that I've heard at this moment in time. Chiedozie Ogbeni played in a 1-1 draw against Watford for Rotherham. He played up front for the full 90. Then Sheffield United beat Hull 1-0. John Egan captained the Blades to victory, and Aaron Conley started, as did Cyrus Christie, and Sean McLaughlin played centre back in that game. Then Burnley played West Brom, and it was Josh Cullen versus Jason Malumbi in the midfield, and Darragh O'Shea was captaining West Brom. Burnley won that game 2-1, if I didn't already say. And then Norwich City beat Coventry away from home. They beat Coventry 4-2. Omar Bamidele came in and played that game, and Ida got 20 odd minutes there for Norwich, but he didn't get on the score sheet. Then Preston versus Birmingham. There was a lot of Irish involvement there. Kevin Long, Scott Hogan, they were both started for Birmingham, and then up front for Preston, Tom Cannon, on loan from Everton, Liam Delap, who's still, the jury's out whether he is actually eligible for Ireland. A couple of people still strongly believe he is. Some people strongly believe he isn't. So whatever you want to believe on that for now. Robbie Brady and Adam Brown all started as well. Greg Cunningham was an unused sub, and then Troy Parrott replaced Tom Cannon late on in the game. It's good to see Troy back playing. Then League One. There's just only a few bits here there for League One, and I'll come back up to the Championship there. So just keep your thinking cap on there if there's anything you wanted to go on to in the Championship. Actually, no, we'll go to the Championship first, and then we'll come back to League One. So is there anything there that stands out to you?
Mainly the Smallbone goal there in Stoke's 4-0 win over Reading. I seen Stephen Kenny was attending the match too, and he was saying before the match that he was excited to see Smallbone and Hendrick kind of facing off. But Smallbone put them 1-0 up in the 11th minute with a really, really good strike from the edge of the box, kind of curling past the keeper with the inside of his foot. But he's a really exciting player. I've been down in Tala a few times when the under-21s have been playing, and I've seen him in the flesh, and I have to say he's a really exciting player. He's got that kind of creativity that he reminds me sort of like a kind of a Wes Hoolahan kind of a player. He's just so creative, and he can kind of make something out of nothing. His vision is unbelievable as well. I just love the way he drives at the ball too. When he gets it from deep, and he just drives from deep in midfield, I just think he's a player with real potential for Ireland. Him and Joe Hodge kind of as a midfield duo would be really something I'd really love to see. But yeah, Smallbone is someone I'd love to see capped for the team as well. I know, as you said there, he was part of the last squad, but didn't get a minute. But yeah, he's someone I'd really love to see, because he's been probably the 21's best player in the campaign, in which they nearly qualified for the Euros. So yeah, he'd be someone I'd love to see a bit of playtime in the coming up games.
Yeah, I thought he was unlucky not to get some game time in the last. Some real, game time. Everyone was excited to see him and thought, he was going to be the one that was going to be brought in and everyone could have a look at, and then nothing really happened there. So I'd like to see him get a good run out now next time, and maybe start looking to kind of build a team around a Smallbone as that creative midfielder, if that's what you're going to do, and then have your Malumbi and Cullen sit, or Joe Hodge and Cullen sit, or whatever way you want to mix. I think Joe Hodge can play that position as well, so it's good to have the options in there rather than just saying, we don't have the players, I'm just going to sit back and try and absorb. It's just not. Look, it's definitely positive. It's good to see Omar Bamidele back, and hopefully if he can stay fit between now and March, he'll be back in there, and he'd probably be in our back three with probably, you'd say, John Egan and maybe Nathan Collins, but then again Darragh O'Shea still captain in West Brom and doing very well there. So again, we've got good options there too, which is good. So happy days. Just hope they can both continue to stay. Hope they all can continue to stay fit and avoid injury coming up to that break, because we'll need the squad. Then League One. Forest Green were beaten 2-1 by MK Dons. Dawson Devoy started that game. Darrell Burns was a unused sub. And And then Luke O'Connell played the full 90 as Barnsley beat Accrington Stanley, who were they? 3-1 in League One. And then Portsmouth beat Exeter 2-0. Peter Sweeney started and captained for Exeter. Marcus Harness started for Ipswich in a 2-1 loss to Oxford, and Stephen Agrew, who recently joined Oxford from Shelbourne, was an unused sub in that game. Then Plymouth, Finn Azaz, the magic man, he assisted 2 goals. He played 65 minutes, and Tyreek Wright started on the left and he played 73 minutes, and Sean Long captained Cheltenham at centre half. Sheffield Wednesday beat Fleetwood Town 1-0. Promise O'Shea started for Fleetwood, and then Phoenix Patterson, formerly of Waterford, he was a 66th minute sub for Fleetwood, but he couldn't help them get a goal. Then again, keeping it Irish related, Derby beat Bolton 2-1, 2 former Premier League gladiator clubs. Howrahan and Sadler are both scoring, and then Jason Knight played, as did Didsey. Owen Toll started at centre back for Bolton. James Collins replaced McGoldrick on 75 minutes, and Sadler actually came on, and he's in the 7 minutes he was on, he got a goal. So he's always good for a goal, to be fair. So that's your League One roundup. If I missed anything there, let us know in the comments. But anything you want to touch on there, I'd say you're probably looking at talking about Finn Azaz.
Yeah, Finn Azaz, what a performance from him. Obviously 2 assists against his former side, Cheltenham. He was on loan there before as well. He's got 6 goals and 6 assists in 17 League One games this season for Plymouth. So you have to say he's doing unbelievable out on loan there, and you'd imagine that he'll stay and try play for them in the Championship, because they're looking likely to win the league now, to win League One. So, but if not, definitely a Championship club will be coming in from next summer, either permanently or on loan. He's a player who impressed me, again, just watching the 21s, especially in that game against Israel in the playoff. I thought he was really impressive. He's just dangerous on the ball. He just looks like someone who's always going to do something. He's kind of like a winger, number 10 kind of. He is just a player who's just really dangerous, and he's putting up great numbers at only 22 to be getting 12 goal contributions in 17 League One games. He's someone who probably would also be thinking, I'm not too far away from a call-up here. Obviously you've got great players in that position like Hodge and Smallbone, who we've talked about before, amongst the kind of more senior members of the midfield, but he's definitely someone who I'd be looking at as well, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that he's 22. He should be really kicking on from here. I think 22 as a footballer is not really that young in my eyes anymore. I think a lot of your good players have not established themselves, but they've kind of made a name before that. Now I understand there's late developers and stuff like that. Look, he's come in. Jim Crawford kind of was made aware of him and brought him in. He done all right in the Israel game for the playoff. I'd love to see him just now take that next step and just see where he goes. Speaking of a player who's doing quite well, actually, Jamie McGrath scored a lovely bicycle kick for Dundee in their 3-0 win in the Scottish Cup over Stirling University. And then Boston Lowell, he made his debut for Celtic, coming on as a late sub. As Celtic beat Greenock Morton 5-0 in the Scottish Cup. Now, that's all I have in terms of the research, because it was kind of last minute research this week. So if we missed anything in the comments, just let us know. We'll make sure to fix it up for next week. But Jamie McGrath scored a lovely goal. Did you see that goal?
Yeah, it's like an overhead kick. It was really impressive. Jamie McGrath he's done unbelievable since making that move. He's always someone I thought has really done really well for Ireland. He's always kind of a diminutive kind of player in midfield. We've got kind of a good few of them now when you think of it. But Jamie McGrath, I have to say, there was an unbelievable goal, the way it was taken as well. But he's someone I'm really looking forward to seeing playing more for Ireland. Whenever I've watched him for the seniors team, he's been great. So, I've only good things to say about it.
Yeah, I love Jamie McGrath. I think he's one of those players that every time he plays, he seems to give a decent performance. Don't know why it's not worked out from really at club level, because he's been so good internationally, but who's to know? Anyway, I think that we will leave it at that for our Irish Abroad show for this week. We'll be back again, I'm sure, probably an earlier time next week. But huge thanks to yourself, Adam, for joining me and giving your insight for this week's Irish Abroad show.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, guys, if you're watching, don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening on podcasts or anything like that, make sure to leave a 5-star review and drop in a comment. And if we missed anything, let us know in the comments, and as I said before, we will be sure to fix it up next week.